who come and ask for asylum, despite the fact that, according to the international law, their petitions should be considered in due time and in due process. So, as you see, democracy completely ends once someone is trying to gain some sort of a benefit. So, ultimately, now, it is all being done to open the border, but as it turned out, it was not enough, because currently the head of the Finnish cabinet of ministers can demand from the Russian border police certain guarantees not to allow, but essentially the filtration of those who are on the Russian side on the legal basis for the people who wish to leave the Russian territory in any direction of their choice. Let me simply remind you that according to Part 2 of Article 27 of the Constitution of Russia, any person can freely travel outside of the territory of Russia. It is laughable that Finland is currently officially a member of the North Atlantic community of white swans who eschew the freedom of thought and pluralism, because they are continuously accusing us of having no freedom, no anything. So what one is to do about the fact that Finland, specifically in this case, violates all of the imaginable principles that provide for the freedom of movement and mobility for human beings. So this particular provision in our constitution specifically is based upon the international norm. Maybe Helsinki doesn't knows about it, but it's written into Part 2 of Article 13, Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, and Point 2 of Article 2 of the International Pact about the civil and political right dating back to 1966. You understand? The rights of the human beings, democracy and freedom must not remain exclusively a declarative principle. These should become an applied kind of principle. They need to be implemented and brought into practice. So with this in mind, one would like to remind sometime in the past friendly Finnish that concern the Finnish side, and you can read about it in the previous statements by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. But what we are stating is that Helsinki continues, apparently, to run this course because they're not really interested in the practical solution, which is the result of the Finnish activities, which negatively impacts the everyday life of the dozens of thousands of people, and they continue politicking, trying not to be guided by the common sense and civil benefit topic. And so, to extend this particular topic further, I mean, within the context of the Ukrainian issue, a very important announcement on September 10th and 12th in Russia, in Moscow, there will be an International Anti-Fascist Forum 2024 dedicated to the International Day of Memory of Fascism. Every day we're saying that neo-Nazism is developing. Every day we are quoting facts, not just over the 1 or 2 years, but every day. Years. First we were talking about trends, later we started saying that it has become a certain routine thing for many countries and for many locations on the planet. Now, 79 years after the victory of the Soviet Union in the World War II, again, humanity is confronted by fascism and Nazism. In the 21st century, in the extension of the brown plague, an aggressive imperialism headed by US and NATO is there, which claim that the rights belong only and exclusively to the golden billion, declaring its hate towards those who they describe as the jungle people, Untermenschen. Some even mentioned the phrase of biological waste. You name it. So to prevent the world from the real danger of fascism that declares its presence every day in different ways, this is one of the top priorities of the International Anti-Fascist Forum, and its motto is, we remember the past, we think about the future. So there's going to be a report made available by the organizing committee about the way fascism manifests itself in different countries, also about the methods of effective combating against it. There will be issues of classifying the history of the World War II, providing material and financial aid to the victims of fascism, patriotic raising of the new generation, many other things. The agenda of the forum also for the international video conference with direct inclusion into the debate of foreign representatives from Austria, Armenia, Belarus, Armenia, Bulgaria, Israel, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Polish, Slovenia, United States, Uzbekistan, France, Estonia, and so on. The forum participants will lay wreaths to the Tragedy of People Memorial in Moscow. The heads of the veteran organizations will be making presentations, as well as the representatives of the Russian parliament, religious conventions, diplomatic representatives of foreign countries in Russia, the heroes of the Soviet Union and Russia, and many others. The words of greeting will be read out by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei. Another date, a very important one, September 8th, which is when we will celebrate the International Day of the Solidarity of the Journalism, which was started in 1958 as decided by the Fourth Congress of the International Organization of Journalists in memory of the Czech correspondent Julius Fučík, which was murdered by Hitlerites, to remind that the duty of the contemporary journalist to honestly deliver to the public the true picture of what is happening, to be in the hot spot of the contemporary conflicts, and to do objective coverage of what is happening. A very dangerous, very noble profession when following various ethical norms and in a law-abiding way. That principle created a very closely knit international brotherhood, something that is currently undergoes the test of times, because there's no traditional journalism that we used to think was an ordinary something, because that is exactly what we heard the Westerners talk about when they were pushing forward this notion of the new media, trying to make bloggers equal to mass media, and attempting to substitute traditional media with social networks. Regrettably, the times when the solidarity between the journalists didn't know any borders or ideological preferences. Alas, I'm not trying to say that it is now the matter of the past, but currently they seem like they're trying to disband themselves, because what we note is this stark emptiness in the place where there should be petitions, statements, declarations. When we talk about the terrorist attacks against the Russian reporters, not only about the Russian reporters, but about the one which died because of the Kiev regime actions. Just imagine the number of people who lost their lives, the number of people who were injured, who were subjected to tortures or taken hostage. Nothing, not a single line of text, not a single line of compassion, neither from the part of the professional community, I mean in the international one, but from the point of view of the core entities, intergovernmental ones at the same time. So in the West, where the true independent journalism, almost in front of our eyes, is becoming extinct and turns itself into an obedient tool of the aggressive propaganda, the above mentioned notions become an empty sound. Very loyal, I mean, just abandoned notions of mutual support, solidarity. Solidarity is when you're being hit by a stick in order to make you do what somebody else wants. You know, NATO countries, when they vote, and what is it that they're voting for, they find out they have been distributed the text of the resolutions that they have previously voted for. And this is solidarity. No, solidarity is something that comes from your heart, from your mind, from the code of honor, for example. And international journalism was exactly the structure that has been in the vanguard of such a solidarity. Is there anything left of it right now? Practical norm right now, when the mainstream Western reporters and trade unions are active participants in persecuting their colleagues. In Germany, of course, the kind of the active persecution that was initiated, headed by that really insane person, considering what he's saying. Just imagine the kind of hate campaign that they launched against the Russian media. That is horrific. And they became the instigators. I mean, the Germans themselves were not ready, were not intending, but somehow to segregate Russian reporters. They found it interesting to read somebody else's point of view, and they were making up their own mind what they liked, what they didn't, what was fake, what was not. They would have sorted it out, but all of a sudden the Union of German Journalism came up and decided for everyone what is true, what is not. Recently, it was difficult to imagine that they would be sickening the local authorities against the media representatives writing in different languages. Once again, the German Union of Journalism, exactly this kind of a structure, which instead of protecting and safeguarding the reporters and journalists, not only specific people, but even the principles upon which journalism is based, are effectively a provocateur which calls upon the German authorities. Of course, this is just a conducted drama, calling upon the German authorities with a request to quench upon the Russian non-colleagues, the way they put it. Reputable media in the past, were really worried about the fact that a certain Russophobic information is going to be dispersed by hate campaign against the Russian reporters. It was impossible to imagine in the past. Just remember, over the past 30 years, the Westerners, even on the brink of meddling with our internal affairs, would be watching over the life of the Russian reporters, demanding that the Russian government should undertake steps to investigate, to protect the reporters from Russia. Just in a second, just in no time, they flipped. And everybody was able to see their true face. Just within a second, the Russian needed protection, were transformed by the West into those who should be persecuted, segregated, and subjected to all kind of ostracism. But effectively, in the foundation of it, if we talk about the Western journalistic trade union and specific people, the senior editors, who are the people behind this hate campaign against the Russian colleagues, that include also the fear of competition or the inability to withstand this competition. Quite clearly, when Russia Today started broadcasting in the German language, and many amongst the German audience, which includes not only Germany but Austria and other territories, many really felt that a fresh breeze of air started coming in as an alternative, as a possibility to have a comparison and maybe, make a choice in favor of their traditional media, but maybe subscribe to an additional source of information. But immediately, the statistics started appearing, of the people being interested in the Russian media, presentations that were broadcasting in German, that it has become overnight a challenge, a threat to the Russian reporters who decided to act as I described, appeal to the German authorities for them to undertake measures against the Russian reporters. And particularly saddening is the artificially conducted, concocted, fabricated actions to keep quiet about assassination attempts at the Russian reporters who are trying to deliver not only an alternative point of view, but also from the hotbeds of events, a stubborn ignoring of the fact that behind all such things there is the Kiev regime. They don't want to see it. They don't want to notice it. But again, appealing to the Western media, you are the colleagues. the physicians and doctors, they take the oath of Hippocrates. And the journalists also have their code of ethics. Where has it all gone? A collective blindness that, as a malady, has struck Western reporters. There are exceptions. Moreover, there are those who are gaining their eyesight back, but there are very few of them.
But most of them, unfortunately, continue to do what they were doing. And they're saying that, what you see, you have to understand that we need to pay for our insurance.
Мы не такие смелые, как вы. Мы не готовы. Ну, хорошо. Вот сейчас они мерятся жестокостью в отношении российских журналистов. Они мерятся с человеконенавистничеством, в принципе. Они мерятся с беззаконием. Они забывают, что это не просто примирительная тактика. А это тактика соучастия. Ситуация с плюрализмом СМИ, свободой доступа к информации продолжает деградировать во многих так называемых продвинутых демократиях, нигде не встречая достойного отпора со стороны профессионалов западной медиасферы. Что касается Прибалтики, там активно продолжаются гонения на неугодных журналистов, которые посмели усомниться в правильности проводимой властями политики, которые посмели высказать свою точку зрения. По проторенному русофобскому пути прибалтийских государств следует режим Санду, о чем я уже сказала. Я даже
Foreign Affairs authorities, also the members of the dialogue, hold meetings with the heads of the Far Eastern regions from Sakhalin, Kamchatka, and naturally the city of Vladivostok. The agenda, or rather, the agenda includes also exchanging the excellence practices in terms of raising the youth for the social, educational, and cultural projects. And the last day of this dialogue will take place, the official ceremony of accepting the new members into the International Young Diplomat Association. I shall remind us again, the association was set up following the initiative of the Council of the Young Diplomats in 2017. So, as you can note, it has its own history. So, as of today, the structure has more than 150 participants. Now let's go over to the current political agenda. What we are seeing is the way the events in Ukraine are evolving, I should say, in the area of the public governance. I would have said it in the older days, but considering the fact that the statehood of Ukraine is really no longer there, so it's difficult to call it a statehood. Let's call it a certain political construct. We will definitely revisit it because I know that you have questions, but right now I would like to cover the dimensions that, so to speak, we traditionally touch upon in our briefings. First of all, I would like to talk about the attempts by the Kiev regime to suspend restrictions on striking deep into the Russian territory. As you know, the Kiev regime and its Western handlers continue to go crazy, trying to chase after exacting on us, as they have formulated, an infamous strategic defeat against a continuously worsening situation for the Ukrainian army at the front line. The Kiev regime is currently after promoting finally new formula of a plan. They have conscience enough to describe it as a plan of victory. If I were them, I would word it closer to reality, because this is a new disaster plan for them. They continue begging the West in order to suspend restrictions on striking our country with long-range weaponry. The Minister of Defense of Ukraine,